Welcome to Ivy Lane Home. Today's furniture project is this beautiful Bassett. So I got this for, I'm assuming $50 because I got a dresser and two nightstands for $100. So great buy. It was sitting in his aunt's garage, and so they decided just to sell it. So the only problem is the base. So I don't know if it had some water damage or just chewed up, but you can see both sides are like literally kind of just like chewed up. I'm not really sure what happened, and so those will need to be fixed. There's a little bit of damage on the top, nothing like horrible or anything, just normal wear and tear. I do have a few little spots in the drawers. They have some veneer damage, and you can see I have a little bit on the sides too. So overall, not bad. Now, because this was sitting in the garage, it was really dirty, and the underneath side was really dirty. So sometimes I like to just take the backs off because I feel like I can get into the dresser a lot better. So depending on where it was stored, like if it's a barn find, or you just never know. So I just really find that I can get a really good clean if I just take off the back. The bottom little crumb catcher is what I call it, was really dirty too. I don't know. I tried to sand it down, tried to clean it. It wouldn't clean. So you know what? I thought, let's just take that out. It's just a real flimsy piece of cardboard. Honestly, they're supposed to be dust catchers, help things not go between drawers, but these are kind of flimsy, and I just took it out. So I'm going to give it a really good sand to try to kind of revive that wood, get any gross stuff off, and we'll go from there. I decided to try to strip the whole thing. I'm using Greenies. It's a non-toxic stripper. I just put it on, let it set for about an hour, and then I'm going to use my Carbide scraper to just pull off as much of that finish as I can. The stripper really helps loosen it. You can tell there's not a ton of finish left. It came off pretty good. Then I just use some paper towels to get off as much gunk as I can. Then I go in with acetone, more paper towels, and then more acetone. And then I'll use 2/0 steel wool just to get off as much of that gunk as possible. If you see any areas that are kind of shiny, or it's just kind of like stuck in there, you really want to try to get as much off as you can, because that'll just save you in sanding time later. So here's the whole thing fully stripped, and you can see the veneer is completely different on the middle drawers. It looks like it's like a two-face or something. So I look back at the original pictures and it was like that, but it must have been toned so much so you couldn't tell. Oh, so I'm going to have to figure out how do I tone that so that it kind of matches. So in the meanwhile, I'm going to use my sander. I'm going to go through 80 grit. This is a Festool sander hooked up with my dust collection system. I got that after about 2 years of doing this. It's helped tremendously. So I like to do 80 grit with my sander, and then it takes off so much that really all then I have to do is hand sand it with 120 and then 180. And then I usually paused and then try to decide how I'm going to finish it. A lot of veneer damage on this piece. So I'm going to use some Mohawk epoxy sticks. This is in the color walnut because I'm going to go dark with this piece. So I need it to kind of match the existing wood. So it's a two-part system. You just cut off what you need, knead it together, and then you simply apply it. Let it dry, and then you can sand it to conform to the shape that you want it. So I'm sanding this side down, and I've never had this happen, but as I started to hand sand, the whole piece just came off. It didn't stick. So I don't know why. I have no idea. You know, one thing I noticed when I was working with this wood is it just seemed like it was oily wood. I don't know if it's teak. I'm not sure what it is, because it just felt like everything was gumming up my sandpaper, and I don't really know what happened. So I decided I'm going to sand this and try to progressively get a higher grit and see if I can kind of reform this corner, because the epoxy isn't sticking. So I will come back later and use a little bit of wood fill. It's a little bit thinner. You can see on this side, it just popped right off too. I'm not sure. So I'm going to sand it, and I will reapply it in this section and see if I can get it to stick. There's a lot of variations in this wood, so I'm going to use some wood bleach. This is oxalic acid. Just dissolve it in some warm water and you apply it like you're putting on paint. So I ended up doing the entire dresser because I really wanted to try to even out some of the wood tones that was going on this piece. So you just let it dry and then you have to come back and you rinse it 3 times. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and do my drawers. So I go through the same process on my drawers. I've already done 80 grit with my sander. So I'll do a little bit of 80, make sure there's no other finish on there. And then I'll come back with 120 and 180, and then I will pause. At the end, I always clean it off with a 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water. I feel like that helps just kind of give it a final clean, make sure there's no other contaminants on the wood, and prep it for stain. So I rinsed it 3 times after it had dried. And then, according to the directions, if you're going to go with a water-based finish, then you want to make sure that you neutralize the wood with baking soda, which I did. Now I'm applying some water to the left side to see if I can match it. So I'm going to try to use just some dye stain on the right-hand side to get it close to what it might look like when I put finish on the left. So it's going to look a little strange, but I'm trying to get it a little bit closer. I'm using light brown dye stain, and we'll see how this does. So once it's dried, I'm going to put a little bit more water on the left and just see how close I got. And I'll show you a little bit closer up. Not bad. Now, it does look a little red to me, but we're going to let it dry out and see how I do. To clean my hardware, I'll use some baking soda with some boiling water, and then I'll add some vinegar. Let that soak overnight, and then I'll be able to clean it. I really like the way the color looks right now. And so I thought, let me go ahead and seal it and tone it just a tad with a little bit of dye stain. So you can see I'm using some semi-gloss. It's just like my first coat because the sheen is determined by your last coat of top coat. So I have some semi-gloss. I'm going to use that mixed in with like about 2 teaspoons of the dye stain. And I'm going to tone it and see if I like it. And then if I don't, I can go on from there and continue to adjust the color. I'm using my Erlex 5700 by Wagner. It's a great, kind of a mid-market sprayer. It's under $350, all metal, has 2 turbines. So you can see there's a little turbine there to the right. I attach my hose to my gun, and it gives me a beautiful spray pattern. Now, I didn't feel like it was the color I was looking for, so I'm going to do a stain on top of it. I'm using Antique Brown. This is a water-based stain by General Finishes. So I'm going to go with the grain, and I'm going to go all the way, trying to keep my lap lines overlap, because this is hot outside, so I'm trying to work quickly. So I'll do like 1 or 2 passes, wipe it off, do another couple, wipe it off, see if I like it. And then I'm going to continue on the entire dresser. He's coming over to me like he wants to go inside. Probably. To polish my hardware, after it's soaked, I'll come back with some Barkeeper's Friend. I like to use the powder because it has that kind of extra grittiness, so it has a little bit of extra friction. And then I use either steel wool, like in a 4-aught, or here you can see I'm using like a blue scrubby pad. Now, they cleaned up pretty good. You can see it's a lot better than the original, but there was still, especially on the inside, it had a lot of problems, and it just didn't look good. So you can tell the underside, they're already sprayed gold. So I decided I'm going to spray the whole thing with a fresh coat of gold and really jazz them up. I felt that right side was really pulling red. So I have some green dye stain. I didn't know if it would penetrate well enough to kind of cancel out some of that red, but I thought, well, it's worth a try. So I'm going to add a little bit of that and see if I can get that a little bit toned down. Once I had it stained, I was ready to start doing some of my repairs. So I like to do the staining first, and then I go in and do my blend all sticks. So these are a soft wax. You apply them, and then you seal them with some people seal them with lacquer, spray lacquer. I seal them with Mohawk's Easy Vinyl Sealer. So you do it in layers. So I had a YouTube subscriber tell me that I really need to use a brush because I was using my fingers to blend it in, and they were like, oh, you're pulling it all off. So I was like, well, even in the Mohawk videos, they use their finger to blend, but I thought, okay, I'm going to try it. And so you can see I have a brush here. So I'm applying it, and then I'm using my brush just to kind of blend it in. And you know what? I think it worked really good. So I know that, a lot of people use their fingers, but I have to give a shout out to my YouTube subscriber because I do think that the brush worked really well. If you're using water-based products after this, you really want to seal this additionally beyond the Easy Vinyl Sealer. So I will come back with a seal coat of de-wax shellac over my repairs, and that will prepare it for my water-based top coat. Once my repairs are done, I'm going to do another top coat with my matte sealer. Well, after that, honestly, the top just didn't look great. It was really kind of patchy. I'm not sure what happened, but I didn't like it. So I decided to take the whole thing off. Now, my Carbide scraper made really quick work of this. I didn't have to use chemical stripper. It came off really, really easily. And then I just sanded it through the grits again, and I'm going to try it again. This time I'm going to use a layer of de-wax shellac, this seal coat. This is by Zinger. And I'm going to try to use that to kind of seal the wood before I go in with my stain. And you can also use pre-conditioner. I just didn't have any on hand. I wish I had, or I wish I had had my spray shellac, because it also doesn't have wax in it, but I was out. And so sometimes you use what you have on hand, but obviously pre-stain conditioner is great, or the spray shellac works as well too. But you can see I'm doing the same process, going right to left, wiping off every couple passes, and is honestly did a lot better the second time. Now I'm ready to seal it again and see if we can get it to the tone and the evenness that I'm looking for. One of my last steps is always reconditioning my drawer. I sand off any stain that might have gotten on there during the refinishing process. I clean the whole drawer with a 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water. And then I'm using a new to me product. This is by Arlington Woodworks. This is their Artisan Furniture Wood Balm. Has just 3 simple ingredients and very easy to apply, especially if you have drawers that are in really good shape. They just need a little bit of refreshing. This is a really great product to use. I'll have it linked down in the description with a coupon code if you want to try it. My final step, as I had just a few little dust nibs in there, so I'm using a brown paper bag. This acts as a real high grit sandpaper, and you just gently go over it and it'll get off any kind of little nibs that you might have stuck in that finish. I felt like I could do a little bit better on some of the repairs, so I'm going over it with a little bit more of the wood stain, and then I'll use a little bit more of the blend all sticks, seal it with the sealer, seal it with shellac, and then I'll have to go back later and reseal it with my top coat. I had taken the back off, so I need to go to Lowe's and I need to get a new backing. The nice thing about going to Lowe's is they can actually cut it for you. They have a cutting area, so you just take over your piece, so you take your measurements, and they're going to cut it to size for you. Then all I need to do is use my brad nailer to get it reattached. And then I have a nice clean back for the buyer. I felt on the left side I needed to blend it a little bit, so I'm using Mohawk's toner. This is in medium brown. Then I sealed it again with the shellac, and then I'll reseal it with another coat of my flat top coat. Well, let's look back at the before. I really liked this piece. I thought it had really beautiful, clean lines. I thought it had a lot of potential, and I actually liked the original color. So my goal with this piece was to do a true restoration where I wanted to restore it to what it would have looked like originally. So I had to, of course, do a full strip because there was a lot of little issues. Not like anything glaringly. It wasn't falling apart, but, you know, it needed to be completely refinished and had a lot of veneer repairs to do as well. So after all this, here is the finished product. pretty subtle. I mean, I think it looks very similar, maybe not quite as red, but I like it. You can see the middle there where the drawers, I had a little bit of variation. I think I was able to tone it, and I really like how the top turned out. That's a very open grain, but I think that this antique brown really kind of toned it down a bit and really modernized it. So there's the base that I had all of those repairs. You can kind of see it on the other side of the rug there, but all of those have been repaired and toned. And then I had some repairs on this side as well that had to be corrected. So there's the final product there. Let's look back at the before. This was the right side. You see I had the drawer and it was really chewed up there on the right. Here it is all fixed up. Not bad. And then on the left side, this one was probably even worse. And so there's that before and here's the after on that one. You can see the toning really helped on that one as well. The base had the most issues, I don't know if it had gotten some water damage or what, but there's the after on the base area. So I really think it turned out great. Now, the story on this one was I listed it on my local Facebook marketplace. Within an hour, I had a lady reaching out to me. She wanted to come and get it. Her husband was in town for the day. They live about an hour and a half away. So she tracked me down. I was actually on a furniture pickup. She actually texted me to come pick it up. We were able to coordinate. He came and picked it up. And so it sold for $1,200. I bought it for $50. Put about $50, probably less than $50 worth of supplies into it. And then, of course, my times. I feel like I'm getting the best return on my investment when I'm refinishing something to wood right now. And so I do feel like light woods are waning in popularity a little bit in my area. You'll have to tell me what you think in your area. But I think the rich, dark, I think mid-tones and dark tones are really having a moment. And then fun colors, I think, are also doing really well in my area too. So tell me what you think about this project. And thanks so much for watching.